Hey, this is Jason from masterimagemaker.com, and in today's video, we're going to talk about this important subject of authority. This topic is so important, so foundational, I wanted to dedicate an entire video and an entire discussion to just this one concept. Often when we come to the world of manifestation, reality shifting, we come with some unconscious baggage about where we think authority lies, where we think or who we think has the authority. And of course, that is the whole foundation of this question. What I love about this term authority is that root word author. We're really talking about authorship. We're talking about reclaiming your ability, your inner creative power to shape your world. Because all along you've been doing this unconsciously. Now we're stepping into conscious creative powers. We're realizing the authority that you actually have and taking it back. We're going to explore in this video some of the things that often hold people back in manifestation, and no judgment around that whatsoever, because this is so common. This is part of the awakening process, realizing who is the authority. And often we're placing authority out, we're externalizing it in a way so that it exists outside of us, and then we can justify failure. So we're going to go into this topic of authority from a lot of different angles, and you can see from my mind map here, we're going to explore authority from the topic itself. We're going to talk about how it relates to your external world, the 3D environment and circumstances. We're also going to look at how to step back into your power and reclaim your authority, and look at evidence and examples of how the world is a response, how your world is simply mirroring back to you the states of being that you're occupying. We're going to talk about the challenges that you can face along this path, how this feels hard initially. It's very common. And we're also going to close with a little discussion around conviction, because I find that these two ideas, authority and conviction, are very strongly related to each other. There's a strong interplay there, and we'll look more closely at what I mean by that when we get to that part of the video. So let's begin by just exploring authority itself. So who decides what is true? Are you deciding what's true? Are other people in your world deciding what's true? What is the nature of your conscious awareness? So what we're typically doing, and we do this unconsciously, this is, I believe, how we come to the world of manifestation, is by kind of slowly waking up to the realization that we've been doing this all along. You start to step into that inner conscious power, and you want to take it back. You want to reclaim it from the places, the entities, the ideas, the concepts in the 3D external world that you've been giving that authority away to. If we don't take this important step, if you don't step into a really clear understanding that you are the authority here, that your consciousness is the one and only creative power, you can end up in a complicated situation where you think you're manifesting, but what you're actually doing is asking that external world for permission. So people will maybe frame this as God, or frame it as the universe, or frame it as other people in their reality, friends, family members, business associates, whatever that might be. We externalize our power into other entities as a way of kind of relocating authorship, giving that power away. But manifestation and the ability to consciously create what you want in your world begins the moment that you reclaim that authority and take your power back. So what I'm saying in this talk today is that this authority step is so essential. And I really want to underline this point that this is an ongoing process. I don't expect you to wake up tomorrow morning and say, yes, I'm the authority. I take all my power back as of this moment today. We are in a world, as we'll see later as we go through this mind map, we exist in a world that has trained us from a very young age to believe in it, to believe in the external world. But once you start to realize that that external world is actually you, that it's in you, it's a projection from you, that it's just reflecting back to you, and it's a kind of mirror. Once you step into that understanding, you can begin to lead your reality. You can begin to lead the external world from authority. So let's talk about that. Let's unpack the external world part of our discussion here. So the world around you is a stream of secondary effects. This is a really important concept to embrace and to fully understand. The world outside of you doesn't have any creative power. So a really powerful way to frame this or to think about it is the external world is a stream of secondary effects that can inform you. It's like an information dashboard. It's a really useful information dashboard because if you want to see where you are, where your state of consciousness has been, you just look around you. You look at the current state of the effects of your world, and there's your answer. Now, the phrase that I'm sure you've heard before, this gets bandied about a lot, is circumstances don't matter, which is true. That's exactly what we're saying. When we say that you are the first cause, your consciousness is the first cause, circumstances don't matter. And Bashar, a channel that is pretty popular on YouTube, Bashar has this way of putting this idea that I love, which is circumstances don't matter, as in they don't create matter. The circumstances around you are not creative in nature, which means that they don't externalize. The only thing that externalizes is you, is your consciousness. Consciousness is primary, which means that the world out there is actually in here. It's within your state of being in your consciousness, and the world out there is just information. It's just reporting back to you. So if you use circumstances to check your progress, to find out if it's working, to see where you are, you start to turn effects into causes, and that's when you start giving your authority away. And that is the foundation of what we're talking about in this video today. Who is the authority? Are the circumstances the authority, or are you the authority? And this whole process of becoming a master image maker, becoming a conscious creator in your life and in your world, is a constant and ongoing process of taking that authority back and realizing that you were the authority all along. So in other words, even when you externalize your authority, you are the one doing that. You are the one deciding that this situation has power over you, or deciding that this person over here can stop you, or that God is out there somewhere deciding whether or not you can have the things that you want. When we start to see that secondary effects are secondary, they're not primary, we're not saying that they don't exist. We're not saying that it's not real. We're saying, as Freedom Barry would put this, that there's more to what appears than just what appears. So we don't need to deny appearances and run away and hide from them. We want to inject more meaning into them so that we can fully understand the experience that we're having, and then to improve that experience. That's what conscious creation and master image making is all about. Realizing this power, learning how to wield it, and stepping into that authority in a way that leads to preferred circumstances outpicturing in your life. Let's move now to this process of reclaiming your authority. So again, when we talk about authority, we mean authorship. We're talking about creative power. We're talking about your ability to decide what is true, what is meaning for you, where is your reality going. You, when you step into that authorship, are taking that power back. You are taking the narrative back and becoming the writer, the director, and the producer of your own movie. So authority means that you are the author, not the character reacting to the script or stuck in the script. Now, this is the kind of fascinating part of the mystery, right? Is here we are inside this life experience playing a role as your avatar, as the character, the human being that you are. So you are the character on that level, but you're not stuck in a script that you're locked inside of. You are also, at a higher level, the author of that script. So this is what Jesus meant when he said, I and the Father are one. That full line, of course, being, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That's in the book of John. So what we're describing here is your own awareness of being. And in this statement that we find in Scripture, this Jesus figure is not speaking as some historic personality, but from the standpoint of awakened consciousness. That's what we're really moving towards when we step into this master image making realm. And since we know circumstances are effects and not causes, you don't go to the source or to that great I am awareness by trying to fix the world. Instead, you go to it by changing your state of being. And when you enter that new state of being, the Father, which is that source of all things, it rearranges itself automatically and you enter into a new bridge of incidents. And of course, through this process, you realize that you always had this power. You were just surrendering it to externals. And this is exactly what happens when we get so caught up in the world of appearances, which is totally normal. This happens to all of us. It's a very seductive world. And when we get drawn into it, often there'll be some catalyzing event that will kind of wake you up. And sometimes this can be a very negative event, unfortunately, but that may be what it takes to awaken the being within you. And you can realize, hey, wait a second, is this what I want to be creating? Or is there some other authorship, creative direction that I want to take this into? Going back to reclaiming authority, we surrender our authority when we start looking to the external world to prove it to us. So if we start waiting for proof, reacting emotionally, allowing externals to determine how you feel or what is your state of being, that reaction reflects your agreement. So there's a really famous story from one of Neville's top students, and I believe her name is Margaret Broom. She wrote a book or did a compilation about Neville. And she tells a story of being in a difficult situation. She doesn't really describe exactly what it is, but she just says it was a very bad situation she was stuck in. And she approached Neville and she told him her story. And immediately he said, "Do not accept it." 4 words. Do not accept it. And she kept pushing, telling him the story. No, you don't understand. I'm in this situation. It's terrible. I can't get out of it, or whatever however she was telling him the story. And all he would say, he just kept looking back to her and repeating, do not accept it. So what's so powerful about Neville's words there, and why I put it in this section of our discussion today, is the acceptance of something is usually the end itself. So if you find yourself stuck in negative circumstances, and this is very common, then ask yourself, on what level are you accepting this as true or as final? And it doesn't mean that you're going to just blink your eyes or wave a magic manifesting wand and these problems are going to just disappear overnight. But your acceptance of them as final and as the end is the very thing that's leading you to the frustration or the negative state of being. And when we can step into a place where you start to understand that you are the authority, you have the authorship, you start to take that back, you start to reclaim that authority, and then you can move into this place where you're not accepting it. You're accepting a new story that you start building within yourself and being that first cause and demoting those negative circumstances to secondary effects. On the other hand, if you start having all these strong reactions, that's you saying, yes, this has authority over me. You start giving your authority away. And I want to really emphasize here, no shame, no judgment. I'm not saying that you can't, you just have to, go through life and be this perfect being who never reacts to anything. That is, I hope you can get to that place. That's wonderful. But you're a human being having a human experience. It's unlikely that you're never going to experience an emotional reaction ever again. And I would never advocate for that. I'm simply saying that you take the authority back. You could still have some kind of emotional response, but don't couple that also with giving your power away, giving the situation all of the power and control over you. So the external world always obeys you because it is you. Therefore, if you say circumstances do matter, then so it is. And of course, this reminds me of that great line from the book of Matthew, according to your faith, be it unto you, or so be it unto you. So whatever you say goes, whatever you consent to is what you will experience. So now let's move into the world as a response and talk about how this fits into our discussion of authority. If you are the author and this life experience that you're having is like a movie or a stage play, and you are authoring it from your consciousness is the source of that. And the world itself becomes a mirror and a kind of feedback system, a dashboard, as we discussed in the previous section. So once we realize this relationship between your consciousness as first cause and the external world as a kind of feedback system, you start to understand that the mirror, even though it shows you very clearly a state of consciousness, it cannot initiate itself. The mirror can't jump off the wall and get you, so to speak. It only reflects back to you. And it does it very faithfully. As Neville Goddard would say, this is law, right? This is how the process works, that the mirror reflects back your state of consciousness. And you, as the occupant of a particular state of consciousness, that's what produces the external effects that appear out there. But those effects out there can never override the cause that's in here. So again, we're talking about reclaiming your authority. We're talking about stepping back into cause, into that first cause state of mind, or you could even call this kingdom consciousness, where you realize that every potential already exists within you as infinite consciousness, and the externals out there are just effects. They have no creative power. You are the creative power, unless you make the mistake. Again, we've all made this mistake. It's part of the experience of being in this physical reality. But if you make that mistake of giving that power away, then once again, you will experience that back to you. So you have so much power that you can actually give the power away. So when we think about this mirror model, then we realize that manifestation itself, master image making, conscious creation, it's not about making something happen or forcing something. It's letting the mirror catch up. It's letting go of an old state and stepping into a new state and allowing reality to reorganize itself around that new state of being. So the world is just responding to you. The world is just a feedback system, and it's a wonderful feedback system. I by no means intend to downplay the wonder of experiencing physical reality. All we're doing here is injecting more meaning into it so we can get a better idea, a better understanding between the relationship of cause and effect. Okay, so this all sounds so easy, right? We just, step into your power as the authority, and we just realize, okay, I'm going to write a whole new story here. Turn the page. Let's, start chapter 15, whatever we're on, and we're just going to write a whole new story. But of course, if you know from your own experience that it doesn't always work exactly like that. So why does this feel hard initially? Why do we sometimes run into challenges when we want to create something new in our world, when we want to turn the page? Well, a lot of this has to do with those unconscious assumptions we're holding on to because of our life training. We've been trained to give that authority away to appearances. We've been trained to believe that there's a world out there that's gonna get you. And that inner authority that we're trying to step into in this process, it feels unfamiliar. It feels a little bit strange because external reaction seems so familiar, because this idea of letting the world decide is so commonplace, and most people are walking around under this hypnosis. And we are all, to some degree, under this hypnosis because of the nature of being a human being itself. Obviously, we don't want to just totally dismiss that. We're not going to just float away like little spirits and just avoid the world completely. There are obviously consequences. There's a world out there that we still face every day. So this is why it feels hard initially. And I put it that way on purpose because we're living inside this world of physical matter, right? We are these consciousness beings, these infinite eternal beings occupying these physical biological bodies, moving around in a physical biological universe. So, you kind of come to terms with that. And again, we're not here to dismiss the world or to deny appearances, but rather to inject that more meaning into them so we can have a fuller, richer experience of life. So discomfort in this process, I really want to underline this. Discomfort does not mean that you're doing it wrong. It means actually that you are in the process of reclaiming your authorship. It means that your awakening is underway. I really think this is key to be careful not to confuse discomfort or the process itself with doing it wrong, especially in the beginning, because it actually means it's working. It means that we're turning the page and our reality is shifting, but sometimes that can lead to uncomfortable situations or old assumptions being uprooted. And unfortunately, this is when most people give up, right? Most people give up right before the big shifts happen in their life because that authority state feels so unfamiliar, because it's so much easier to just blame the external world, to justify failure. It's so much easier to say, well, God, this external God didn't want me to have it, so I guess I'm on a different path here. It's so much easier to blame another person or to say that the weather was a certain way, the economy is a certain way, a whole myriad of things that we can blame. My astrological sign just wasn't lined up just right. And of course, when we talk about authority here, Neville Goddard has a really powerful lecture. I encourage everyone to watch it, The Pearl of Great Price. He's referencing that biblical line that the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls. And when he finds this pearl of great price, he sells everything that he had so he could buy this pearl. And of course, the pearl is not a literal physical object. The pearl is your authority as the conscious creator of your world. And once you buy that pearl, you have to sell everything else, which means you have to step fully, completely into this role of authorship and start to take responsibility for what you're creating. You have to let go of blaming circumstances. You have to let go of waiting for permission, let go of the how, let go of secondary causes, and you sell off all that doubt and fear and effort-based identity, all those reactions to appearances. And that's when you step into buying that pearl or your identity as the operant power, as the authority of your world. And you enter into this inner kingdom consciousness, this heaven within you. So unfortunately, when we're going through this process, it can feel a little bit uncomfortable because it's so much easier to just see the external world as the authority. One way I'd like to approach this for you to try to give you a certain angle for this is by combining authority with conviction. So we're going to look at that next in this section. I'm going to give you a 5-step model for how you can step more into authority in your life as a conscious creator and start to build conviction around your inner state as being the primary creator. So the first step is realizing that this external world is some kind of informational feedback system that reveals to you where you've been. Start to look at your world that way as kind of, this is curious. Okay, I see where I've been in consciousness. So let's just take that as information, not as authority, not as finality, but as feedback. And it's useful feedback. We don't want to shut our eyes to the useful feedback. Rather, we want to take step 2 and reclaim our authority within in that consciousness and decide and accept a new story and a new script. So decide being the operative word here. You are taking your authority back. You're not looking at the external world and saying, oh no, I'm trapped in these circumstances, so I'm limited. There's all this limitation around me. So no, you are an infinite, eternal being. You do not know any limitation on the level of the great I am consciousness. And of course, that can be difficult to accept when we're constantly looking at appearances and letting appearances define us. But when you claim that authority within and you start to realize again that you are the total life that anything can have in your world, you can literally decide a new story, a new script, and start to create it within yourself. And we move to step 3. Once you accept that new script is true, you see and feel that new story from within yourself, regardless of external appearances. So you stop drawing your meaning and your satisfaction and everything. You stop drawing that from the external world, because why would you if it's just information? You would look at it and say, okay, I see where I've been. This is not where I prefer to be. I prefer to be over here instead. So here's my new script. Here's my new story. And I'm going to give that to my character, this avatar, this human role that I'm playing. And I'm going to step into that new script before the appearances change, because that is exercising my authority. And then step 4, we stand with conviction that your inner world is the creative power, and that the external world does not get to decide where your story goes next. You do. And when you step into that conviction, that's when the external world will do its responding. And again, it's just going to respond. So we can listen to it, we can pay attention to it, but we don't take meaning or significance from it. We don't take finality or authority from it. We just say, oh, thank you very much for the information. I'm going back to my script. Anything I see out here that challenges that new script, I'm going to see it as an old story that is passing away, and that old story has no power to create. It may give me the temporary illusion that it has power, but I will deal with whatever's going on, but not give it meaning and significance. And I want to be very clear here, big disclaimer. I'm not saying, again, that you just bury your head in the sand and deny appearances. No, you can still handle things that need to be handled. You can still have difficult conversations, deal with difficult situations, whether that's around money, health, relationships, whatever it might be. You still can be a practical individual in the world, but standing inside yourself with the conviction that that inner story is the creative power, and that the external world is just a response and doesn't get to decide where your story goes next. And then step 5, you're going to be uncompromising in this perspective. This is the old persist, persist, persist. And you let the world reorganize itself around you because it has no choice. Now, we're not going to muscle the world. We're not going to try to go push the world around, because when you do that, you're suggesting that there's another power to fight against. No, we're going to just let the world kind of roll by, deal with what we need to deal with, but without any strain, without any fighting, without any sense that there's some external force out there that has power over you. You are the power. You are the master image maker. You are the creator of your world. You are the total life of anything. And once you know who you are, once you know that you are this infinite eternal being, that your I am consciousness is the creative power, then you are going to have the wonderful experience of seeing yourself moving mountains and living the life, living out that new story. As it takes hold within you, the external world will start to reflect it back to you, and you will begin to truly understand what it looks like and feels like to move through a state of consciousness. And you start to realize that states themselves, at least in the way that they outpicture, so if you're in a negative state and now you're moving into a positive state, let's say you were in a negative state around money, or a negative state around relationships, or a negative state around health, whatever that negative state was that is outpicturing in your world today, that outpicturing, that state of consciousness is nothing. It's dust. It has no power over you. It has no real power except the power that you give it. So in this process, what we're really doing is shifting that seat of power back within yourself, allowing yourself to step into your true inner infinite creative power, and then letting the world reshape itself in response to that inner movement, that inner power. Again, I'm Jason from masterimagemaker.com. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please take a moment to like the video so that more people will see this, so that you'll see more of my videos. The algorithm loves it when you like my video. Be sure to subscribe here to my YouTube channel. And also, if you're interested in learning more about how to step into this authority, how to become a master image maker, please leave a comment below, just the word blueprint, and we will send you a free PDF blueprint that you can download, and you can start to put this practice into your life, put it into practice in your life right away, and learn even more strategies and concepts just like this to help you step into who you really are, the master image maker of your world. Again, I'm Jason. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will talk to you soon.